So as Sam mentioned, we're talking about HbbTV and HbbTV Operator app and having a look at the technology considerations associated with that. But in particular, focusing on Freely, which hopefully some of you have heard of. And as soon as David gets up here, we'll get...
Sorry, I was just...
That's okay, that's fine.
Water.
No worries. I mean, we have the two Chief Technology Officers who are really driving this whole project, which is groundbreaking in many ways. And we have Orpheus, Warr from Everyone TV and David Beazley from YouView. So I guess, first of all, just for anyone in the room that's not familiar with Freely, just sort of give us the top line on that. What it is, what purpose it serves, why people need it.
Yeah, thanks, John. So Freely really is it's a new product which we've launched just under a year ago, and it's the new way to watch free TV. So with Freely, you can access, using your Freely connected TV, all of the great free TV content that we have to offer, all in one place, live and on demand, and it's all available over Wi-Fi. And we think that's really important because we see a couple of trends happening in the UK at the moment, which Yorick, if you saw him earlier, mentioned, but I'll say it again because it bears repeating. The first thing is that people continue to watch most of their video at home on the TV. And the second is that most of that TV is broadcaster TV, and the third is that most of that broadcaster TV is live TV. And the next trend is the move towards IP consumption. So at the moment, we think about 25% of homes in the UK are IP only, and that means people either can't or don't choose to connect an aerial or a satellite dish to their televisions. And within 5 years, we think that could be 50%. Within a decade, we think that could be 70%. And our mission is to provide great free TV for all. That's what we do as our company. And therefore, we have to find a viewer where they are. And if they're increasingly in IP-only homes, then that's where we need to be. So Freely is a TV experience that provides live TV and seamless onward journeys into on-demand content to customers, and particularly to customers who don't have an aerial or a satellite dish. And we'll talk a little bit about how we do that. As a product, we think it's very innovative, so it introduces a range of really exciting features. Live TV is streamed over IP and also over the aerial if you have one plugged in. There's a very interactive mini guide which you can use to sort of enjoy the live TV content that you're watching, but also go straight into onward journeys. And there's also a deep degree of integration into the TV operating system, and we'll talk again, David will talk about how we've achieved that. And so, as a customer proposition, not only is it sort of allowing us to be where the viewer is, but really to excite them and delight them as they use the product.
Okay, and Everyone TV is the sort of the company that runs Freeview and FreeSat in the UK, so it's owned by the public service broadcasters. And then your technology partner for Freely is YouView, so David. And YouView itself has a whole heritage in developing and operating TV platforms. So just tell us how this collaboration works.
So David Beazley from YouView. In terms of the collaboration, I'm the supplier here, so I'll say it works brilliantly well. Don't ask Orf that question. As you say, YouView has a rich heritage of producing TV applications that combine DTT, broadcast content, and IP content. So we were very pleased to win this business and have had a lot of fun building out the Freely service with ETV. In terms of what we've built the Freely operator app, an HbbTV operator app that sits on the client, and then we've adapted our platform services to support that application and proposition. In terms of, I wouldn't say we're the technology partner.
A technology partner.
Yes, exactly. So if you saw Carla and Akila and Yorick's session earlier, you'll get the gist that this is a collaboration of many technology partners. So the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, and that's before you get to all the TV manufacturers. My technology team works very closely with Orf's technology team. It was Orf's technology team and the BBC really that developed the concept of producing the proposition using the HbbTV operator app, and in fact adjusting the specification with the HbbTV symposium to actually meet the features that we wanted to deliver. In terms of how the collaboration works on a day-to-day basis, like most technology delivery these days, it's an agile delivery model. So right from the start, we have been working in sprints and iterations with the product team in YouView, working very closely with the ETV product team in envisioning the proposition, and then the technology teams in my area delivering showcases of that content, worked all the way through the delivery, the build phase. And actually, since we've launched the product about a year ago, we've managed to maintain that cadence and continue to deliver updates to the proposition on a monthly basis.
Okay. So why HbbTV? Why OpApp? And is that the reason you've got this fast cadence and this agile approach?
Yeah. So how many people in the room know what an HbbTV OpApp is? Excellent. So HbbTV is an international standard. It's in pretty much every connected TV that's sold in Europe and in other territories as well. And the use of HbbTV really allows us to write an application which we can then deploy across lots of different TVs because it's a standardized environment. That's good for us because it means that we can build once and then deploy many times. It's good for TV manufacturers because it means they don't have to reintegrate our application in lots of different ways. And it's good for the consumer because it means the consumer gets a consistent experience. It looks and feels the same no matter which Freely TV you buy. And it also means if you have multiple Freely TVs in your household, for example, then it works and feels the same whichever one you're using. So HbbTV as a standard environment is really good for us, and it's good for the industry. The reason HbbTV exists is because it's an integrated way for TVs to have traditional broadcast and IP integration. And for many years, we've run a platform called Free2Play, which was terrestrial delivery of live signals and then video on demand as a connected experience. And Freely is really the next generation where we've supercharged that by being able to provide very tight integration between terrestrial signals for live TV and also IP signals for live TV. And if you're in a hybrid mode, some of your channels will come over DTT, some of them will come over IP. If you're in an IP-only home, all of your channels will come over IP. But the way in which that's been built and the way in which David and his team have engineered it is that it's a seamless experience, and as a consumer, as a viewer, you shouldn't really know the difference. So it feels very relatable, it feels very easy to use, it's very familiar. The operator app is an extension of the HbbTV standard, and that's really important for what Freely is. We're not just another app on a list of tiles on a home screen. The operator app allows us to be very tightly integrated into the operating system as the live TV experience on that device. And that comes from integration. So operator apps effectively are applications that have elevated privileges, we say, on the TV. They have access to remote control button presses. They can control the tuner. They have ways of controlling the way in which the TV displays video. And therefore, the operator app allows us to have very seamless integration into the operating system. So from a manufacturer home screen, there might be a live TV rail. If you click on one of those icons for a channel, then that takes you straight into live TV, and that's free. If you hit the guide button on the remote control, or the Freely button on the remote control, it takes you straight into the Freely experience. So it feels very seamless. You don't have to come and find us. We're right where you expect us to be, in the middle of the live TV experience on the device. And so although we are an app on the app tile, we don't expect most of our viewers to actually use that, because by virtue of using the TV in the way that they always would, and it's a very straightforward, very familiar first-time setup journey to get there, you find yourself inside the Freely universe anyway. And once you're there, not only do you have really easy, seamless access to live TV and lots of advanced features that you get from connected TV experiences, but you also have very seamless onward journeys into on-demand content as well from all of the free TV broadcasters that we work with. And that's probably the other facet of HbbTV that's really important, is we can move from the Freely environment into, for example, iPlayer or ITVX or 4 or 5 and back again without the viewer really knowing that that journey is happening. So it feels very intuitive. The last thing I'll say about OpApps is that they're also self-updating. And that's incredibly powerful for us. David talked about the cadence that we work at. So we work with YouView very ambitiously. We're trying to release new features all the time. We're working in an agile manner, which does require a huge amount of collaboration, and we get incredible support from YouView in doing that. But the OpApp also means that when we're ready to release new features every month or every 6 weeks, we simply tell the application that there's a new version and it will update itself. So the viewer continually gets new features released to them. They don't have to go looking for them. And in the majority of cases, most of the time, we don't have to wait for the TV manufacturer to provide an update. We can just get that direct to the consumer ourselves.
Yeah, and that's a key point. And David, I mean, you know, Orf said that you're kind of deeply integrated with the TV in the sense that you get this privilege, these elevated privileges. But in terms of updating, it's kind of like the application's almost separate, and you don't have to refer to manufacturers every time you want to do a UX change, for example. You can just do your stuff. Yeah,
we're sort of getting the advantages of being an OTT app on the device. I mean, OTT apps, I used to run one for Sky and Now TV, and you can produce a brilliant service, as I'm sure many in the room do, both a linear, IP-delivered linear service and VOD service, and do all the updating and sort of being a master of your own destiny. But to Orf's point, that doesn't allow you to merge DTT content, if it's available, with IP content, or get that ubiquitous availability of content, such as if you're watching a live channel, turn the TV off, turn the TV back on, you're back into that, or it might be the next day, but suddenly you're back into ITV or BBC or whatever you were watching. That is only available with the elevated privilege of something like the OpApp. So the update mechanism is practically not dissimilar to what a CP can do, a content provider can do with their OTT app. It's just available to us with a more privileged access on the TV.
Okay, and you know, using a spec or a standard like HbbTV and OpApp, the idea is that you can implement it once or design it once. It should implement everywhere, hopefully consistently on all the different devices that you want to use in the market. I mean, how has that worked out in practice?
Well, this was a point of much difference in the build phase. Me personally, I thought that this wasn't really going to work in the way that Orf felt it was. Orf was a big supporter of, his view was it would be, we'd build the OpApp and then it would just roll out easily onto all the new TVs that we signed up. And I was of the belief, having done the Now TV and various other things, that onboarding to a new device was a difficult journey in many cases. And the specifications, while they get you some way there, there's different interpretation of specifications and teams see things differently, so they never quite work in practice, and there's usually a big onboarding phase. So and my team was of the same view as me, Orf's team a bit more of his view, and so this expression, the Orf happy path, got born during the program, where Orf was all saying it's going to be easy when we get the next device, next TV to roll onto, and I was of the belief that that wasn't going to be the case. A year in, I'm afraid I have to eat my words a bit, and Orf's scenario has come to play a bit. I feel his team might do a whole load of work in the background to make it feel like it's a happier path. But interesting enough, we only have two TV manufacturers in our rigs. So we built our whole proposition really before there was a TV that met the spec. The spec was being written as we built out the proposition, which made for some interesting times. And we built certain features a few times as we got to a finalized agreement of the written spec and finally a TV that met that specification. And we have those in our rigs just down the road here, about 12 TVs that represent those two device manufacturers. So all our automated tests, sort of a couple of hours after any software is committed to the code base, that automatically runs against those TVs. But that's all we see. So actually we're onboarding devices where we as the app producer and sort of service provider don't actually see the TV. And Orf's team deal with some of the nuances of getting the new manufacturers to meet the new spec. But essentially the happy path is it's a happier path than I thought it would be.
I think I would just say, because we're on, it's been an amazing first year. We're very much still in the growth phase, but we are now on, our partners represent about half of the UK TV sales market. And it's a real testament to the collaborative nature of the industry, actually, that across our content partners and our development partners, the standards bodies like HbbTV, but also the manufacturers, that we've been able to do something like this, because it's sort of, we're living the dream. Everyone has worked together on a common set of standards. They've been implemented. People have developed streams to play into those applications in the right way. You know, there was always a chance that it wasn't going to work out this way, but actually it has, and I think that's a real testament to everybody who's been involved within the Freely journey directly, but also, you know, more broadly across the industry, to show that we really can do incredible things when we work together and we do things in a standardized way.
Okay, now we'll take audience questions in a couple of minutes, but before that, I just want to talk about the player on the Freely service, because it's a federated player. So talk us through that, because that's quite innovative as well.
Yeah, so this is something that's been developed. You know, we've put out a set of requirements. It's been developed by the YouView team. Effectively, we act as the playhead inside Freely. So the content partners who stream their IP channels into the Freely application work to a specification. Again, it's a Freely streaming specification. It's based on a DVB- standard, so it's not something that we've just made up. But the streams come from the content partner, and the job of the player is then to reproduce them in a consistent way. That's really important because it gives the broadcasters control. If you're a content partner with Freely, it's your stream, it's your data, you're getting all of the information back about how those streams are being consumed, it's your monetization opportunity. We're providing you with a standard way to do that. We're giving you reach into people's homes, we're giving you the ability to create targeted streams because it's an IP stream. So we're acting really as an aggregation point. But the control stays with the content providers. I don't know if you want to talk about the player, but it's been a really impressive piece of engineering.
Yeah, first off, we've reused, or we're using the open source -JS player. So this movement to JavaScript players has been going on in the industry for quite some time, and so that played to our advantage in terms of the CPs that we were partnering with. We're used to this approach. And also in terms of the onboarding discussion we've just had, it removes a point of variability because it is a common consumption mechanism. It's the same player as you move across actual TV manufacturers or OSs, and gives the CP some control of the playout of the stream. So that consistent player is a hub and spoke model. So in terms of each CP is producing, as Orph said, their own streams from their own encoding equipment. And then we had the challenge of how do we make sure that we can provide information to all those providers, use the CDNs that those providers want to use for those streams, have CDN failover for the different providers in the mechanisms that the different providers want it to work, produce quality of service information back to the individual providers, so we have mechanisms that loads in automatically depending on whose stream we're consuming. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge, but we got there.
Okay, and it's also delivering a very consistent experience between the channels.
Exactly.
And any new broadcaster who comes on board, they accept the federated player as well.
Absolutely. So we have a sort of onboarding team. We work with content partners to help them produce the right kinds of streams, and then we make sure that we test them adequately before they launch, so that we're confident that it's going to be a seamless experience. But yeah, absolutely. The beauty of the standardization and the specifications that we've worked towards means that not only do the streams look the same, but you get the same high quality delivery. Access services should be broadly consistent. There's a whole bunch of things that mean that not just the core viewing experience, the extended viewing experience is all consistent as well.
Okay. Now I'm afraid we won't have time for audience questions now just because the clock. But are you two around in the break?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can catch them outside. One last question then, what's next? I mean, presumably growth is the next big thing?
Absolutely. So this is a big growth year for us. There's probably 3 areas that we're focusing on. We're continuing to onboard new content partners. We've just announced 4 content partners and 8 new channels quite recently. We're also onboarding new manufacturers and operating systems, so there'll be more announcements to come. But we announced Amazon Fire TVs at the beginning of the year. We've got high-end Panasonic TVs coming, and we've also just launched with Met, who we previously announced. And then the third area is really just feature development. So we're working very closely with David and the YouView team to continue to enhance the feature set in Freely with a focus on accessibility, a focus on content discovery and navigation, and then really supercharging that core live TV viewing experience to continue to add the features you get from a connected device.
And it'll just keep iterating very, very quickly as well.
The nature of the product is we continue to iterate, we continue to work very hard together to deliver new features all the time.
Yeah, great stuff. All right. Well, thank you very much, both of you. Okay.
Thanks, Ian.